Hello everyone, welcome back to the session on your mass storage systems. So in the previous session, we discussed about the introduction part related to your mass storage system, right? So in that, we discussed about the different type of storage devices, what we have, where we can store a huge amount of data, and that data will not be lost when there is a power failure or whenever there is a we are switching of the system. That is nothing but we are talking about the non-volatile memory concepts here. So we have something we discussed in the previous session, something called as magnetic disk. Okay, so that is nothing but our external hard disk, where we will store the huge amount of data which is relevant to us. Apart from that, we also discussed about the other type of storage devices that we do have. Something we discussed about something called as SSD, if you remember. And nowadays, this SSD is much more popular when compared to your magnetic disk. Earlier, external hard disk, if you talk about, magnetic disk is much more better. But nowadays, as the technology is getting advanced, we are getting very lightweight laptops, our desktop system. The size of the desktop has been reduced, right, to a large extent. How it is possible is nothing but due to the evolution in the technologies in the hardware sector. Now here in SSD solid state disk, what happens nowadays? Most of the laptops are coming with this particular SSD. Okay, this is what we call it as solid state disk. This is one type of storage device. We use it for storing the information. So we have already seen the diagram relevant to it. And after that, we discussed about something called as magnetic tapes. So if you remember the magnetic tapes, and we said that this magnetic is used only for the backup assist are much more thousand times slower when compared to your SSD and even when compared to your actually not compared to SSD related to your magnetic disk. These are thousand times slower when compared to your magnetic disk. This magnetic tapes. That's the reason this magnetic tapes are used as a backup so that we can store huge amount of data within this particular tape. So basically, nowadays, whatever the laptops we do have, mostly we are using magnetic disk as a secondary storage device. But the latest trend is coming with SSDs. Even though it has certain what we call cons here, as we discussed in the previous session, the con here is that the size cannot exceed more than 500 GB. Means they are able to provide only up to 500 GB because this SSD is similar to your RAM. Have you seen RAM? Similar kind it is this particular SSD. So it is providing up to 500 GB and the max is 1 TB. But if we talk about the magnetic disk here, you people can provide a magnetic disk of 3 TB for our systems. But only thing is this magnetic disk are much more thicker, much more weighter. They have a much more higher weight when compared to your SSD. SSDs are something like a chip. Your RAM chip, how we are having, in the same way we will be having SSD. So this is the introduction part what we have discussed, and after that we discussed about something relevant to how these particular storage devices are attached to our systems. So we use something called as common different type of buses, right? So what kind of bus we have used is nothing but e-bus we have universal USB, universal serial bus we discussed. Then we discussed about ATA. These all are IBIO, so these are all the buses, different type of IBIO bus which are used to connect the hardware to our computer. Okay, so we have ATA, Advanced Technology Attachment. Then we have SATA, SATA. SATA is nothing but Serial Advanced Technology Attachment. Serial means in a serial format these have been attached, and with the help of this we are able to transmit the data in a CA format. Same way we have other cables also. We discussed about something called as SP, that is nothing but your fiber channel, and then we discussed about ISPSI, and apart from that, we also discussed about something called as InfiniBand. This is much more faster. And we said that this particular InfiniBand, we can use it in your supercomputers and servers. Supercomputers or in the servers where multiple transactions are going to take place, and millions of transactions are going to take place per second. There we can use this particular InfiniBand in order to make sure the data is getting transmitted very fastly. Because this is the one which plays a very important role. If the data is not reaching the systems perfectly, then definitely there will be a delay, and that delay is what we usually call it as latency, right? So that later, and due to that delay, what happens? The efficiency of the system is going to get reduced. To overcome that, we are using these kind of system buses. Now, if you look at FCNSS, ICSTS, this we are going to use it for our high-end systems like your servers and supercomputers. But whereas coming to eBus, USB, and ATA, we discussed that we can use them only for something called as our personal computer, or it can be your laptop, because we have to perform transactions in our laptops, maybe hardly hundreds or thousands, not more than that. So that many transactions only we may be executing per second or per unit time. So that's the reason we are using these kind of buses in order to communicate our storage device to the system. Well, this is what we have discussed in the previous session. In today's session, we are going to discuss about something called as disk scheduling. Well, if you people remember that we discussed about the internal structure of your magnetic disk, which actually consists of a spindle, and that spindle actually consists of platters, different platters like this, right? And there will be a disk arm here, and that disk arm will consist of a read-write head, isn't it? This is what read-write head we have discussed in the previous session. If anyone didn't watch my previous video, you can just go through it. So here we discussed that every particular platter will consist of a track, right? Like this, we'll be having multiple tracks, and in between tracks, we'll be having multiple sectors. So here, the data is represented in multiple sectors here, every track. So whenever, and we also said that how the filling is done in this particular thing. First, the outer layer will be filled, then the inner layer track will be filled, and then the inner track will be filled. So whatever the sectors we do have here, so first this particular sectors. So within a track we have sectors. So these sectors will be filled. This is done, then we'll enter into the second inner. From outermost layer to the innermost layer, we will be going and we will be filling the data. If you want to see it, if you want to in real time you want to see it, you people can take a CD or your DVD and you can see the layer. The outer, if there is some data present in this particular CD or DVD, the outer layers will have a different kind of layering when compared to the inner layers where the data is not filled. You people can see there is a small difference there. So practically you can see them using your CD and DVD. A similar kind is what we are using in our magnetic, in this particular storage device. That is nothing but your magnetic disk. Now here, since the data is stored in these sectors and it is not randomly split in different areas, so whenever we want to access the data, the system will try to access the data from sectors of any algorithm. Please remember that this can be applied only for the magnetic disk. We cannot apply for SSD. That is nothing but a solid state disk. Why? Because it comes in a format of a chip, and this is directly connected to your computer system. So we doesn't have anything called as latency. We don't have anything called as latency or speed time. Why? Because this SSD is directly connected to your computer system. So it can be accessed directly without any intermediate thing. But here, this scheduling cannot be applied to them because it can be applied only to magnetic disk, where we will be moving this disk arms here and there. But here we don't have, because here everything is digital. Here every information is digitally provided. So here we don't require this disk arm kind of thing or read-write head kind of thing in this particular SSD. That's the reason we cannot apply disk scheduling into this particular SSD concept. So this scheduling is purely related to your magnetic disk. So let's have a small introduction related to disk scheduling, and then we'll go further the different scheduling algorithms what we have and how we are going to schedule them. So basically, when we are talking about disk scheduling here, let me represent everything here. Yeah. So basically, disk scheduling, what we know is the operating system, whatever we are using. What is the main purpose of operating system? What we are using? Well, we want to utilize that particular system to 100%, right? That is a thing we are discussing from the beginning. What is the main purpose of the operating system is that 100% utilization of the CPU should take place. And whatever the hardware we are having, with less hardware, we should be efficiently satisfy all the requests of all the processes, of all processes. That is the main purpose of our operating system. Utilizing 100%. The CPU utilization should be 100%. And whereas coming to the request here, means what with the minimum number of hardware, we should be able to satisfy all the requests of the processors which are actually getting executed in that particular system. So definitely, since this is a hardware, right? And we people are talking about hardware. This hardware has to be is attached with a computer system with the help of something called as bus, right? We have different type of bus. We already discussed USB, okay, SATA. We discussed it. Now definitely they have some speed. So whenever you want to access some data from your hardware, it has to be transmitted to the system using this particular bus. So definitely it is going to take some time, right? For example, you want to reach to your from your home, you want to reach to the college. Definitely it is going to take some time. It's not that immediately you can directly reach here. Like you're opening a door, okay, and you're just immediately reaching you're right in front of your college. This is not going to happen. You may be using a different mode of transport, and every mode of transport will have its own speed. Some people might be coming in car, some people might be coming in a vehicle like motorcycle, some might be coming in a scooty, right? So based upon every vehicle will have its own speed, and same with the data traffic. I mean the traffic within from where we are coming at the channel. Same way here also every bus will have its own speed, and that will have certain delays, and that is what. So these are the three terminologies which we should remember when we are talking about this particular disk scheduling. First is seek time. Well, we already discussed in the yesterday's session that seek time is nothing but it is the time for the disk arm to move the head to the cylinder containing the desired sector. So here we discuss something like this. So here we are having what we call sector. So whatever the disk arm we are having, read write head, to move this disk arm to that particular track, whichever the track we want to read the sector within a track, they to move this particular arm to that particular location is what we call it as seek time. And apart from that, we have rotation latency. What is rotation latency is nothing but, well, that sector may be located in some other point. Means we have placed this read-write head in that particular track. But that doesn't mean that the particular sector which we want to read from the particular track is present near to the, we need to create this platter and bring that sector below this read write head so that it can start reading the data. So it will take some time. Rotating also it takes some time, and that is what we call it as rotational latency. Okay. I hope it's very clear. These two are most important when we are talking about CA. These are the one which actually affects the throughput of your system. Your hardware and computer accessing, the throughput will be depending upon the seek time and the rotation latency. What do you mean the seek time? Seek time is nothing but the time taken to move the disk arm, okay, to the particular track where we want to read a particular sector within that particular track. That is what is calling it as seek time. Well, track and sector, if you have any doubts in this, you please watch the previous video. So rotation latency, what he's talking about here is nothing but it is the additional time required to move the disk. Now we are the read write head is pointing at to the track where we want to access that particular sector. But that sector might be located in some other location. So we need to bring it back. For that purpose, we are going to use this particular thing, rotation latency. So moving the particular sector to that particular read write head is what we call it as rotational latency. Why it is called rotational is nothing but we need to rotate the disk to move that sector to that particular read write head. So that is what he is calling it as rotational latency. Well, disk bandwidth is nothing but how much time it takes to consume, how much time is getting consumed to access that particular disk. So definitely it takes some time. So what that usually, see, remember, I am talking about time here, but it is mostly in milliseconds or nanoseconds. Mostly it is in milliseconds. Okay. Now, how we can calculate the disk bandwidth here is nothing but this is a formula. The total number of bytes that are transferred divided by the total time between the first request for the service and the completion of the last transfer. So total bytes, how many we have transmitted, that we are going to divide with the total time that is going to take between the first request for the service. So whenever we are taking a first request for the service, that is what comes under this. And the last transfer means whichever the first service means whichever first request has come up, along with that, the last request which has been completed, that combinations will give you this particular part. So if you divide the number of bytes that are transferred there this particular thing, then you are going to get the disk bandwidth. Okay, this you people can remember it in the problems. If we'll try to find it, I'll give a practical example in the next session so that you can understand how we can identify this particular disk bandwidth. Now, well, whenever a particular process wanted to access the IBIO information from the operating system, it will definitely provide some system calls, right? How the operating system means whenever the process wants to access some IBIO devices, how it is going to request the operating system, definitely we already discussed in the first unit that it is going to do it using system calls. Using system calls only it can do it. And we have already seen multiple different type of system calls. We have seen for the process system call, we have seen for information system calls, we have seen for maintenance. For maintenance, we have a separate system calls, right? In that way, we have seen different system calls. So using the system calls, it is going to provide the information to access the IBIO devices. Who is going to provide? The process. Now, what that particular system call actually consists of? What kind of information it will consist of? Well, these are the points that are providing it. Means it may consist of information related to whether this operation is an input or output. Means whether whatever the operation we are going to perform, whether we are going to provide it as an input or whether it is going to be provided as output. What the disk address for the transfer is, means what kind of we means address we have something called as the call. Okay, so whenever the process is requesting for an IBIO to the operating system, so within the, I mean, the request, whatever it is doing it using a system call, these are some of the points which will be covered in that, like what kind of operation she wants to perform, the process wants to perform, what kind of information it is requiring, which disk address it is trying to access it, that all information will be present in this particular thing. Okay, now based on this, so this we should know it, and based on this we have different type of scheduling algorithms here. So the very first one what we are going to discuss here is SCFS scheduling. We have many, this we will be covering here. So first one is SCFS scheduling algorithm. This is nothing but your first come first service. Okay, I think you people might have understood right from the second unit. You have something called SCFS scheduling algorithm for processes. Then when we discussed about the page replacement technique, there also we had SCFS. And finally, in this scheduling also, we have a common one, SCFS. After this, we have something called as SSCS scheduling algorithm. Well, if you remember the process scheduling, we had something called SJF, shortest job first scheduling. This is almost similar to it. Here, SSTF is nothing but shortest seek time first. Shortest seek time first. Okay. So it is similar to your shortest job. So whichever the shortest job we are having, we'll try to cover that and then we'll go to the longest. So that is what comes under SSTF. And after that, we have something called a scan and C-scan. If you remember, whenever we perform a scanning of a document using a scanner, Xerox machine, you might have seen that one particular light moves from one end. Suppose this is a machine borders. We will be placing a paper here. There will be a one tube light here, which will be moving from here till here, right? Again, it will come back. So this is the kind of thing. That is what we call it as scanning. I will tell you how it exactly this process is going to work. Same way we have something called a C-scan. This is a variant of your scan scheduling algorithm. Then we have look scheduling algorithm, and then finally C-look scheduling. Well, scan and C-scan are of one type. Look is a variant, is a separate variant of a scan. C-look is a separate variant of your C-scan. Okay, what is the difference? Very slight difference we will be having. I will explain with the help of example so that you people can understand that pretty clearly. Okay, so let's begin with your first scheduling, this scheduling algorithm. What we have is SCFS. Well, it is the simplest algorithm. We already know all the different type of scheduling algorithms what we have discussed related to process, related to page replacement and related to this. It is the most simplest one. Okay, so this is the one for introduction, and for the basic level we are going to discuss this. So here, as we know that it is based upon the first come first serve, we are going to perform this operation. Now how we are going to perform this operation here is nothing but we will be given here something called as queue. If you remember, we will be given here a request queue. I think you people remember queues, right? Every process will have a queue. Same way here we will be having a request queue, and that request queue will consist of the cylinders. So here basically every sector, okay, whatever the sector we wanted to access it, okay, so that sector numbers will be given here, and from that we need to determine the total number of cylinders, how many we are accessing. The total number of cylinders, how many we are accessing. So if you want to know what is cylinder here, you please watch the previous video where we discussed about the magnetic disk. In that I have explained what do you mean by cylinder here, what do you mean by track, what do you mean by track here, so what do you mean by sector. I have already discussed it. You please watch that video so that you can get understand. So here whatever the information will be given here, that will be related to the sectors. So he will be giving values like, integer values in a sector. From that, we need to determine how many cylinders it is going to access, because these sectors are present in a track. This is a track, right? This is a track. Now, this is what we are calling it as a, this is a track, which in this part is what we call it as sector. This is another sector. This is another sector. Same way as I told you in the magnetic disk, we will be having multiple disk platters like this. These are the platters. And this all the platters, all the tracks which are in same location from for all the platters, we call it as a cylinder. Suppose we have another layer here like this one. Okay. Now this layer will form another cylinder. So whenever the read write head will try to access read write head, try to, okay, determine how many cylinders we need to access in order to satisfy the request queue whatever we are getting it. So it should be less. Okay, remember the total number of cylinders whatever we are getting should be less. Okay, the less the number of cylinders we are accessing, the more efficient our algorithm is. So that is what comes under in this particular thing. Now, let me explain with a small example. So these are the cylinder means these are the requests which are given here. So basically that we are given a disk queue here. Okay, now we will be taking a queue from 0 to 199. Well, remember most of the questions whenever they provide in the exam, they might not be providing this information. They will give you only this particular information that there is a disk queue with the request for I by you. Okay, and this is in this format. So what we need to do is from this, we need to draw the graph like this. Okay, so how we can determine what is the minimum value? This is your minimum and this is your maximum. So how we can remember means we can access, or how we can determine this min and max value is, see what is the minimum value we have in this particular value. If you see here 14 is the minimum. So you people can access it from 0, because from 0 if you start it is much more better. So initially we'll start with 0. 14. What is the maximum? We have here 183. It is almost nearer to it. So you people can go till means 3 digit. What is the maximum value of 3 digit? If you go near to this 183 is 200. Since we are starting from 0, we will be using it from 199. Okay, 0 to 199. Now whatever the values are provided here, whatever the values you people are able to see here, you people just write it up in a sequential order in an ascending format. Let me write it up. So like for example, what is the initial value we have smallest 0. Now here when you are representing it, the distance should be maintained perfectly. So this is your 14. Okay, this is 14. And after that we have something called as, what is the minimum value we have? I think it's 37. Well, 37 means it will be somewhere here, 37. Okay. I hope it's very clear. You people are able to. Okay, let me draw it a little bigger so that it becomes easy for you to understand. So let me draw it here. So I'm taking a very big one here. So this is your 0 and this is your 199. Okay. So now I will take up here. So this is your 14. So this is somewhere here we are having 37. And after that what we have? So 14, 37 is completed. 2 digit numbers are these. So 65. So 65 will come somewhere here. So 67 you can see it is only very nearer to it. 67. And after that these two are completed. Then we have 98. So 98 is somewhat far from 68. So 98. And then we have 124. Okay, we have 122 also here. So it will be somewhere 122. So again we have 124 and then finally 183. So this is the way first draw this line. This variation should be there. Like 122, 124 are very nearer to it. So we are representing like this. 65, 67 here. But 37, 65 is far. So we need to represent in this way. Now here, so it is giving that the initial head moment will be provided to you. So initial head moment is given. The head pointer is at 53. Well, we need to represent that 53 also. So what it says is the read write head, whatever we have, initially is present at a head pointer called 53. So we can represent 53 somewhere here. It is near to 65 now. Yeah. So right now the head moment is at where it is? Here it is. Right now the read write head disk is read write head moment is at this particular location 53. Now what is the scheduling we are applying here? SCFS. So first come first serve. So what we are going to do, whichever the first one is there, based on that we will be serving the request. So first came 98. So first one what we have here is 98. So we will be serving. So from here, where is 98 here? Remember, initially when you are representing the dot, when you serve the next request, you should be going in a slantly in a from your higher to lower. Like from here 98, right? It should not be parallel. It should be coming a little slant like this. So okay, the disk is coming to 98 and it is serving this request. After 98, it is going to 183. Where is 183? This here it is. Should be somewhat okay. After 37 is somewhere here. Well, I can, okay, I'll take a little lower. This one is the one we have here. So it will come, it should be a straight line. I am not able to draw it, but you please use scale and pencil in order to draw it. Okay, 37. And after that we have 122. So 122 is somewhere here. So from here it will be going requesting 122. After 122 it is going to 14. Yeah, here it is. So it will be coming here in this way. It will be serving here. Then after 14, it will be going to 124. Where it is 124? Here it is. So here we need to perform the operation. So from here we will going to 124. So after 124, again it is coming to 65. So 65 is somewhere here. I am going to, okay, well I don't have a space here. Remember it should come in a lower angle, 67, 65 and then to 67. So this is the diagram. Okay, this is the way you people have to draw the diagram. And remember, whenever you're drawing from the first position, it should come in a slanted format like this. Okay, it should be going in a lower direction. Now, this is the way how your read-write movement, read-write will be moving. Okay, read-write head will be moving in this particular way, and we are satisfying. Now, from this, we need to determine what we need to determine how many cylinders, the total number of cylinders the system is accessing, the read write head is accessing. So that we are actually trying to determine how many total number of cylinders that read write head is accessing. See, why we are trying to find that cylinders here is this. See, there is a possibility that if you take this is a platter, right? Now within this we have multiple layers and we have sectors. The outer layer will start sector 0 as I told you in the previous. So this is 1. So it may consist of 10 sectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in that, let's till here 10. So what about the 11th sector? It will be the second track. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. And after, let us suppose till 20 we have. What about 21 to 30? It may be in the third track, which is the inner one. Outer to inner layer we are going. So here, when we are representing like this, so what happens here? If you see here, this will be a one cylinder. The outer layer is one cylinder. The inner track will represent another cylinder. Inner track is another cylinder. So if you are requesting, 14 to 37 you are going. 14 is present in your second track. But where about 37? It may be present in the third or fourth track, right? Fourth track means it comes under fourth cylinder, not in the same cylinder. That's the reason we are trying to determine the total number of cylinders. So how to determine the total number of cylinders from this is nothing but we will be performing something called a summation of the differences, means the distance from one location to another. For example, from 53, okay, let me change the color. Yeah. Now from 53, where did you go? 98. So what is the difference we have that we need to determine? So we use mod. So 98 minus 53 plus, now from 98, where did we go? 83. So 183. So 183 minus the mod of 183 minus 98. So why we are doing mod? There sometimes we may be getting the value negative, but we will not be doing that negative, right? We will not be capturing. For example, you are moving. So suppose from your home, you're coming to the college. So, okay, what is the distance if I talk about, if I ask you what is the distance from your home to college, what you will say? You will say 30 kilometers. But if I ask you what is the distance from your college to the home, then also you will say it is 30 kilometers. You will not say minus 30 kilometers, right? So even though you're coming, means from, you're going from, let's suppose this is positive, this is negative. From positive to negative you're coming, you're saying it is 30 kilometers. From negative to positive you're going, you're saying 30 kilometers. You will not say negative. Same way here also we are calculating distance. Sometimes we might be calculating from a lower value to a higher value. So here the value will be coming in negative, but we will not be taking the distance in negative. We need to take it in positive. So we are representing in this way. Okay, fine. From 182 to 90. From 183, where did we go? 37. So here if you see mod 37 minus 183. 183 minus 7 to use sequence. That is negative. Since this is take the distance as positive. Now after that, from 37, where did we go? From 37 we went to 122. So here 122 minus 37 plus, and from 122 we went to 14. So 14 minus 122 more plus, from 14 we went to 124. So 124 minus 14 plus, so okay, so we went to 124. So 124, where did we go? 65. So you can write 65 minus 124, or you can write it 124 minus 65. That is up to you. Plus, you can write again 65 minus 67. Okay. The summation of all this will give you the total number of cylinders. So you people can just use a calculator, or you can just try to find it out the values. You will get something around 45. If you're doing it 45 plus 85, if you do this particular subtraction part, so you will be getting 146 plus 85, then 85 plus 108 plus 110 plus 59 plus 2. So it is almost equal to 640 cylinders. Okay, I want you people to please work on this. You people do it on your own and the summation part so that you can get to know. It is going to ask 40. I think the more will be. I hope it's very. So let's see the graphical point of view. This is the way how you people have to draw the diagram. You can see the initial minimum is 0 to 199 we have taken. Since the maximum value we have is 183 as a request. So we have taken, we have made it as a round figure to 200. But since we are starting from 0, we have taken as 199. So this is the way how you people have to represent, and after that, the working part what I told you, that you people have to do it. Okay. So 98 minus 53 plus 183 minus 98 plus, so 37 minus 183 plus from the 122 minus 37 this way, and then whatever you're getting the value, that is what we call it as the total cylinders that are required for this particular request to this serve. I hope it's very clear. Well, basically you people might have seen this is not much more efficient one. Why? Because why we are saying this is not much more efficient here is, see, from, if you see here in this particular location, when you came to 122, Don't you think it's better that you satisfy 124 and then you go to 14? What happened here? The distance is increasing here, right? The total number of cylinders have been increased. Why? From 122, 124 is nearer. But we did not go to 124. As per FCFS, first come first serve, we directly went to 14. From 14 again we came back to 124. So this distance, whatever we are seeing, is much more higher. Okay, this is not a reasonable one. So this why SPFS is not a good one in order to implement for complex kind of disk scheduling. It is only for our explanation understanding what we are using this particular thing, but it is not an efficient algorithm what we have. The next one is the efficient one what we have, that is nothing but your SSTF scheduling algorithm. So I think SSTF is nothing but it's the shortest seek time first scheduling. It is similar to your SGF algorithm in your process scheduling algorithm. Now here what exactly this particular algorithm is going to do is, it will from the current head position wherever it is located, it will try to find the nearest request. Whichever is the nearest request is there, that particular request will be satisfied. Then it will move to the forest request, whichever is present in the longest distance. Okay, the nearby request will be served first, then the longest distance will be served. Well, I'll explain it with the same example. So as I told you, it is similar to your SGF scheduling algorithm related to your processes. And what is the drawback we have there is starvation. Okay, in SGF process scheduling algorithm, we had a problem. That is what we call it as starvation. To overcome starvation, we use something called as aging technique. So here we don't have any kind of technique like this. Okay, in SSTF, but here also this scheduling, there might be a possibility that some requests may be starving to get a chance to get it executed. How? I will explain. Because the total what we scheduling of 640 cylinders, right? But if we are applying the same, okay, on the same request, this particular algorithm, we are going to get a total of 236 cylinders. How? Let's see. So I will directly go to the graphical part so that I can explain it easily. Now, if we look at here in this particular concept, the head moment is starting at 53. Okay, so here it is going to start. Now, rather than the FCFS, which one is coming first, it is serving the request. This algorithm, what it will do, it will find the nearest request which is having a shortest distance. Shortest seek time first, whichever the request is having a shortest seek time, that will be served first. Then it will go to the next one. So let us take, let us see what we have. Let us suppose from 53, we have two requests here, 65 and 37. We will determine which one is the nearest. How we can determine that which one is nearest? So we need to calculate the distance. Now 65 minus 53 if you do it. So what is the distance we are going to get from 65 to 53 is 12, right? I think 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 1, so 12. And from 53 to reach 37, what is the distance we are going to get here? I think it is 16. 6 plus 3, okay, not 16. 53 minus 37. How much are you going to get? 7, 3, 10, 7, 12, 13, 14. So it will be 7, 6. Oh, sorry, 16 only. Yeah. 7 to 14, 16, 3 plus 1, 4. Okay, fine. It's 16 only. So if you see here, the distance from in between 65 request and 53 is 12. And coming to the distance from 53 to 37 is 16. Which one is smaller? Which one is having the smallest peak time? The 65 is having the smallest peak time. So what happened here, from this particular location, it will first serve 65. Now again from 65, it will try to determine the distance. So we have two requests here from 65 now. One is 67, another is 37. Which one is nearest? We know the difference from 65 to 67 is 2. But whereas coming to something called 65 to 37, it will be much more bigger, right? It will be something, it is much, we know it's much more higher when compared to 2. So that's why we will be satisfying 67 first. Now from 67, we have again two requests. One is 98, one is 31. So the difference from the distance from 67 to 98 is how much we are getting here is, 31. Okay, from 67 to 98, the distance what we are getting is 31. But from 67 to 37, we are getting the distance of 30. So which one is smallest having? 37 is having. That's the reason from 67, we directly went to 37. So from 37, again, we'll try to determine which one is having shortest. 14 is having or 98. Obviously, 14 will be having because the distance here is 23. But from 37 to 98, the distance, whatever we are going to get, it will be 61. So there is a lot of difference here. So definitely from 37, we will go to the request 14. And since from 14, we don't have any other request on the left hand side, all are towards the right hand side, and definitely 98 will be having less distance when compared to 122. 122 will have less distance from 124, and finally 183 will simply follow a sequential way. So 98, 122, 124, and then 183. So this is the way how you people are going to do, draw the diagram. You can see here, this is what we call it as shortest seek time. Means from the current head position, whichever is having the shortest distance or the seek time, that particular request we will be serving it. Okay, so when it comes to 65, what is the current head position now? 65 is the current head position. From here, we need to find out whichever the shortest distance we have from the request. So we have here 67 and 37. Which one is having shortest? 67. So we will go to 67. So right now the current head position is 67. From here we will try to determine which one is shortest. 98, 37. So obviously 37 is having the shortest. How we can determine? Simply by taking the difference. 67 minus 37 is 30. And 98 minus 67 is 31. So definitely 30 is less than 31. We'll go there. From 37 to 14, if you see here, 7 minus 4, we are going to get 23. But 98 minus 37, we are going to get around 61. Lot of difference. So we'll again serve this request. This is your current head position. Since we don't have any other request this way, so we'll go in this way and we'll serve the request. Now, how to calculate now the head moments? I mean, the total number of cylinders required here. Same process. Mod from 53 to 65 now. So 65 minus 53 plus. Then again, same way. From 65 we went to 67. So 67 minus 65 plus. From 67 we went to 37. So 37 minus 67 mod plus 37. So 14 minus 37 plus. From 14 where did we go? 98. So 98 minus 14 plus. So again from 98 we went to 122. So 122 minus from 124. So we went to 124 from 122. And finally from 124 we went to 183. So 183 minus 124. So I want you people to just calculate this. You will be getting a total number of cylinders as 236. You can see there is a lot of difference, right? Where is 640 cylinders we got for the first one, and here we are getting 236 cylinders. There is a lot of difference here, right? So this is much more efficient when compared to your first particular FCFS scheduling algorithm. So I hope it's very clear. You people just carry on with this. And the next one, what we have here is something called a scan scheduling algorithm. Well, you people can remember this as something like, the scanner, whatever we use. So how within a scanner, we have a border, and within the border, what we are doing, we will be placing a document. This is your document. And whenever you're placing it, there will be a small tube light, okay, which will have some kind of a color. Okay, it may be a green, it may be blue, depending upon the system. Now this particular, so whenever you start scanning that particular document, this particular tube light will be moving from one end to last, okay, to the end. And then again, it will be coming back. Okay, this direction comes under this particular scan scheduling algorithm. So here what we are going to do is, from the current head position, the read-write head will move towards one end. Okay, so it will be starting from one location and move to the another end. And in between, whichever requests are coming up, that request it is going to satisfy. And when it reaches the other end, from there again it will come back to the first position. I mean first end, whichever we are having. So in between again, if there are any requests, it will try to serve that particular request, whatever is there. Okay, this is something like your train. For example, from Visakhapatnam, you wanted to go to Hyderabad. So we have a train here. So what the train will be moving from one Visakhapatnam to Hyderabad. So in between you may be getting multiple stations. So that particular train will stop in this particular station and try to serve that particular request, right? So it will be, when some people might be boarding it, some people might be boarding it. So that particular, so what it is doing, it is serving it each and every request. So when that particular train reaches Hyderabad, what it will do, again it will come back to Visakhapatnam. And when it is coming back, what it is going to do, again in the stops, it is going to stop and it will help the people to, means it will serve the people by letting them boarding that particular train or boarding that train, okay? So vice versa. So that is what we comes under here, scan scheduling algorithm. Here, the one thing what you people have to focus on is, you should know the direction of your head pointer, means which direction it is going. Whether it is going like earlier we have shown you something like this is 0, 199. So you should know whether the head movement is going in this direction or whether it is going in this direction. Then only you can start serving that particular request. I will show you an example so that it becomes clear for you people. Well, we also call this algorithm as the elevator algorithm he has given, like how the elevator is going to work. It will go from ground level to the top floor. And in between, it will stop at each and every floor, requiring serving that particular, okay, serving the users. Same way from when it reaches the top floor, from here it will again come back to the ground floor, serving each and every floor, right? So that's why it is called as an elevator algorithm. So the same example we are going to see here. So I'm not taking any other example. So if you see here, this is the elevator algorithm. So in this particular algorithm, since there is, they have provided information that the current head position is at 53, but they did not provide us any information whether from 53 it is going to 65 or is it going to 37. So by default, what we are going to do is I am going to take a left part. Okay. So if that information is not provided, you people can directly access. You people can directly take any of the choice. Either you people can go in this direction or in this direction. But in case he is specifying that the current head position is at 53, but the previous head position was at, what does that mean? Previous head position is 42 and the current head position is 53, means the head movement is towards right side. So the next movement you should take in a right direction when you are applying the scan scheduling algorithm. Okay, but if it's saying something like the current head position is at 53, but the previous head position was at 97, means what does that mean? From 97, the head movement has went to 53, and right now the current head movement is 53. So we can move in this direction. Okay, so if it is specifying, you should remember that. If it's not specifying, you can go either way, either on the left hand side and right hand side. But you have to mention it that why you means you are selecting this particular direction. Then only the evaluator will come to know that which process you are following it. So I am following here the left side. So I'll first reach 0. From 0, I'll go to the other end. So from 53, I'll be moving towards 0. So when I'm moving to that particular end, whichever request is coming in between, I will serve it. So what are the requests from 53? We are getting 37 and 0. So I'm going to serve them. And once that is done, I'm reaching to that particular point 0, I will be moving towards the other direction, to the other end. So in between, whichever request is coming, I will serve it up. So what are the requests we have from 0 to 199? So we have something called 65, 67, 98, 122, 124, and finally 183. So these are the one which I am going to serve it. And please do remember when you are representing this diagram, make sure it is coming in a slant manner and that too in a, okay, it should be in lower level. You can see it is coming in this direction like this. So this is the way you people have to draw the diagram. And based on this, how to determine the total number of cylinders, what we got is similar way you people have to do it. The way I told you to do it here. So that way you people can do it. So what are the values we are going to get? I'll just show you the representation and you people can do the calculation part. So 53 to 37, right? So 53 minus mod of 53 minus 37 plus we have 37 minus 14 plus 14 minus 0. So from 0 we are going to 65. So 65 minus 0 plus from 67 minus 65 plus, so from 67 we are going to 98. So 98 minus 67 plus, so 122 minus 98 plus 124 minus 122, and finally 183 minus 124. So if you solve this problem, you will be getting almost 236 cylinders, I guess. Okay, just try to solve it and try to get the value. You will be getting this many cylinders, 236 cylinders. So previous one also you got something 236, and here also you got 236. So both are almost similar. But sometimes it will vary. So depending upon the request, whatever we are getting, the total number of cylinders required will be keep on changing. So the total cylinders required, or the total number of cylinders assessed, is equal to 236 cylinders. Okay. So I hope it's very clear, but it do have some drawback here. What is the drawback here is there is a small wastage of amount of time. Why there is a wastage here? If you see here, from 14 to 0 you're going, from 0 to 65. So from 14 to 0 unnecessarily we are going there because there is no request from 14 to 0. But this is one of the disadvantage of your scan scheduling. So when you move to the other end, we are simply wasting some slot. From 14 to 0 we don't have any request. So here 14 peak time we are simply wasting, isn't it? So this here 14 minutes. So this time is additional from year to year. Rather than from 14 to 65 if you go, you'll get a different time, right? So this 14 seconds or 14 unit time or peak time, you're simply wasting it up. This is one of the drawback of your scan scheduling algorithm. Okay, you please do the working part of it so that you can come to know how to solve this particular problem. Okay, so then again we have something called as C-scan here. So okay, so this is also similar one. There is no much variation here, similar to the scan scheduling. But the only difference here is, suppose you are starting from Visakhapatnam to Hyderabad, right? So what did I say? The train starts from Visakhapatnam and it will reach Hyderabad. In between, it is serving the request. Fine, that's well and good, like your scan scheduling. But in C-scan, what is going to happen is, whenever it is returning back from Hyderabad, it will not stop in any of the stations, like a scan scheduling. In scan, what did it say? From Hyderabad, when it is coming back to Visakhapatnam, again it will stop in these particular stations. But whereas coming to C-scan here, when it reaches Hyderabad and it is coming back to Visakhapatnam, it will not stop in any of the stations. The train is not going to stop in any of the stations. It will directly come to Visakhapatnam, and from Visakhapatnam again it will move to Hyderabad. Then it will stop in between stations. Okay, that is the only difference between your scan and C-scan. C is nothing but circular scan, means from Visakhapatnam it will go to Hyderabad, and in between it will serve all the requests. From Hyderabad again it is coming back to Visakhapatnam, and from Visakhapatnam again it will start serving each and every request till Hyderabad. But when it is returning from Hyderabad to Visakhapatnam, it will not serve any request. That is what called as surplus scan. This is the only difference we do have. Without this, no other difference is there. Okay. Now, in this direction, in this particular context, I am taking the direction towards right side. Okay, since he did not provide any information whether we have to go left or right, previous one I have taken left side, this one I am taking in the righter direction. So I got this particular graph. If you see here, from 65, 67, 98, 122, 124, 183. But actually we don't have a request. But what did the boy say? The scan will move to the end. So what is the end we have here? 199. So we need to move to 199. From 199, it is again coming back to the first end. That is 0. So in between, it is not serving. You can see 37 is 14 is there, but it is not serving it. From 0, again it is moving towards 199. Then it is serving this particular request. Remember, it is moving towards right side, right? This particular diagram is moving towards right side, like in this direction. Means when it is coming in the backward direction, it will not serve it. But if I am starting from 53, if I am going in left side, so 53 to 35, 35 to 14, 14 to 0. Okay, so it is serving the request. Point. So if I am starting from left side, so 37, 14, 0. So when it is going in this direction, it will not serve. Whenever you're coming from left direction only, you have to serve. So it will directly go to 199. From 199, again, it will stop at 198, 183, 124, 122, 198, 67, 65. You're getting my point? If you're coming in left direction, this is the way. So means what happens, which side you're serving, the other side you're not going to serve. But if you're coming from right side, you're serving the request. When you're coming to the left side, you're not going to do. Not going to serve. See here, you went towards from here to right side. So you're serving it. So when you're coming in the reverse direction, you will not be performing any kind of service here. Once you reach the other end, then you start serving. But if you go to the left side here, if I started executing from left side, so it will go to 53 first, 37, 37 to 14, 14 to 100. So I'm going in a reverse direction. So I will not serve any request. I'll first go to 199. From 199, when I'm coming back, I will start serving. So 183, 124, 122, 198, 67, 65. And the remaining process is same. To determine the number of cylinders, same. 65 minus 53, mod of 65 minus 53 plus, mod of 67 minus 65 plus, mod of 98 minus 67, so on. Okay. So based on that, the total number of head movements, what you are going to get is 382 cylinders. I think you people can see in the scan, we got 236, but here we got 382 cylinders. Why? You can see there is a difference here. Why there is a this much change here is from 199. First thing, from 188 to 199, we don't have any request. We are unnecessarily going till 199. So here 199 minus 183. If you are doing it, 6, 199. So 16. The distance from, so here we got 16 and from here to here 199. So 199 plus, from 199 0 now. So 199 plus 16. This is additional distance what we got. That's the reason we got 382 cylinders rather than 236. Okay. So this additional time we are wasting it. So 199 to 0 we are coming. So this entire distance is, rather than that, from 188 we can come to 0. So this 16 we might have saved it, right? This is the drawback related to your C scan. Unnecessarily we are wasting time from here to here and from 199 to 0. This comes under this particular thing. Okay, now after this, okay, this is the way you people can do it up. And the next one what we have, okay, so let's scan it is, what have we discussed? And after that we have look and see look. Okay, well, this, as I told you, these are variant of your scan version and C scan, but only difference is whatever the problem we have faced in the scan. What is the problem we faced? It will move to one end, from there it is coming. Means in the diagram we went to 0 and then we came up. Okay, but in whereas coming to here, look is the version of your scan and C look is the version of your C scan. Look what it will do is, it will not go to the end point. Okay, it will not go to the end point. It will go only if there is a request in the end point. That is the only difference we are going to have in look and stable. If you see here this particular example, I am taking in a, since the direction is not provided, I will go towards the right hand side. So if you see here, from 50 it is going to 65, from 65 to 67, 98, 122, 124 and 183. If you consider your C scan, if you please consider your C scan, what did we do? From 198, we went to 199. And then from there we went to 0. And then we started serving 14 and 37. But if you see here the C look here, what it is doing? From 183, it is not going to 199. That's why we call it as means. If we will, before going towards the other end, we'll find out whether there is a request or not. We will look whether there is a request or not. If there is a request, then we'll move towards that. If there is no request, we'll come back to the previous one. So from 188 to 199, we don't have any request. There is no use of going to 199 again coming back to 100. I mean 0. Okay. So what we did from 188, we find out when we are going to the back end, actually it should come to 0. But see, look what it does it will find out rather than going to 0, it will find out whichever is the first. So 14 is the one we are having here. So it will go to 14 rather than 0. And from 14, so it is reducing the distance from this distance and from here to here distance. This distance it is trying to reduce it. That is the best part of your C loop. Okay, similar to your C scan. But C scan what it does, from 183 it will go to 199. From 199, it will go to 0. Same diagram, but only difference is this. From 0, it will go to 14, and from 14, it will go to 37. C scan. And when it is returning it, it will not process any request. But whereas coming to C look, what it will do, it will not go to this particular portion. From 183, it will not go to 199. And from 199, I mean, from 183, it will not go to 0. Whichever, it will move to the end. It is coming to the end only. But whichever request is there in the end, that only it is serving. So 14 is the one which is present in the end. That is getting served. And after it is getting served, then it is going towards the other direction and it is serving it 37. It is similar to your C scan. Only difference is it will remove the additional distance which we are covering in a C scan, that is getting eliminated. Remaining process is same. You people can determine the total cylinders. Then what about look? Look is similar to your scan. How scan is working? Same way look is also going to work. Means when it is coming in this direction, it will serve. Means from 183, I will explain here only. If you talk about look, so it is serving in this direction. So when it is coming in the backward direction also, it will serve. So 183, it will first serve 37. From 37, it will then go to 14. So it will not go directly 14 here. If you are talking about look here, it is a C look which I am representing graphically. But what I am drawing right now, it is related to look. So it will be going in this direction. It will be coming back here 37. From 37, it will come back to 47. 14. Okay, so backward direction also the scan serves. Same way look also when it's coming to backward direction it will serve. Only difference is it will not go to 199. That's it. That is the only difference we have related to your look and see look. I want you people to please practice them perfectly so that you can get a clear picture of how this particular works. So in the next session, I will explain you the another problem. We'll take a practical problem and try to solve it and find it out how this look and see look. So I'll be focusing mostly on look and see look example and scan and see scan so that you can get a clear example. I mean understanding of how it works. Okay. Remaining, you people can do it on your own. SSTF and before you STFS, you can do it. So you just please keep on practicing it. In the next session, I will take an example and try to solve the problems related to your look, scan, see look, and see scan so that you people don't have any confusion. Okay, so this is all for today's session. Thank you. Thank you for watching this particular video. If you have any doubts, you people can directly ping me up. Thank you for watching.